Hi guys, welcome to Wealthy Wednesday. Hello. Hello, how is everybody doing? I am going to get this on. Make sure that we are all on. Sorry about that, Instagram. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see who's jumping on. Hello, Moni, how are you? I know you're in Guadalajara. Joanna, how are you? Maria Flores, how are you doing? Mi Arellano. Alma, how are you? Hello. Hello, beautiful. I don't know how to pronounce your Instagram name. Is it, how do you say it? R raw 3 raw 36? That's what I would say, right? Hello, hello, hello. Let me see who's on Facebook. Who is on Facebook? We don't know who's on Facebook because I don't know if anybody's jumped on. But anyways, welcome to Wealthy Wednesday, guys. Today is my first day back from vacation, and actually not technically. The Balloon Maven, how are you? It's actually not my first day back. My first day back was Monday. Had a fantastic vacation. I'm just gonna tell you guys a little bit of my personal stuff before we get into, hey Liv, how are you? Had a beautiful vacation with my husband, with my in-laws. We went to Cabo, Mazatlan, and Puerto Vallarta. We did the Carnival Cruise. We had a blast. And yeah, we just had a good time. And so that was great. I was also very happy to be back. Then from there, when we came back on Saturday, for some of you that I did get a chance to see you, I was at the Latina Fest, and that was awesome. It was super hot, but it was really, really awesome. So you could, literally jumped out of a cruise, got home, did some laundry, did some grocery shopping, make sure that my household was good, and then went to the Latina Fest. And from there, hello, Queen B604. Hey, what's up, Veronica? Priscilla, how are you? And then from there, yeah, just had a blast at the Latina Fest with Velia and with Veronica. And so that was awesome. Hello, hola, Reina, ¿cómo estás? And today, I need to see you. Changes. Good, that's awesome. I love changes. Anyway, so now we are at Wealthy Wednesday. However, unfortunately, today I have not been feeling the greatest. I have a sore throat, and it's probably due to all these changes in weather, from hot to cold, to being in the water, to vacation, to coming back to work, I don't know, to the heat, because it was really hot on Sunday. If you guys were at the Latina Fest, please post some comments. Don't get me wrong, it was phenomenal. I think they probably had over 2,000, maybe 2,500 people attend, just go through the vendors. So if you're a vendor, I just wanted my hats off to you guys, because it was hot. It was hella hot. And actually, I got this from Tatiana, Ana Alvarado's daughter. This is so beautiful, and it's a reminder to self-love. So I actually ended up taking the day off today and literally just rested, just at home. My voice sounds a little shitty, and I just had to listen to my body, because I definitely have some commitments coming up. I was actually supposed to be at a training today, couldn't really make it to the training. I'll be there tomorrow, and then I have another speaking engagement tomorrow. It's a private event, it's by invite only, and then another speaking event on Friday. And then Saturday, some amazing things are going on as well. And so, hi Adriana, hello beautiful. So yes, so that's what's going on. Just wanted to reconnect with you guys. I'm sure through my Insta stories, through my posts, you guys have seen I had a really good time. Hello, beautiful. La güerita, I miss you. That's my niece. But for those that it's your first time, please let me know it's your first time. Most of you guys, I recognize your Instagram name or your Facebook. And, I personally know some of you. So thank you for joining again and again and again. And for those that I don't know, I would really appreciate it if you guys can post if it's your first time. I always like to know whose first time it is, because we have an awesome community. And I know how some of you guys have actually welcomed our first timers. So I just want to definitely see whose first time it is. And if it's your first time, hopefully it's not your last. For those that don't know me, my name's Eva Macias. Some of you have followed me, I know. Thank you, Mi Arellano. On actually the Latina Fest, I had some of the women stop by and said, I follow you on Instagram or I follow you on Facebook, but I've never got the chance to actually meet you. So thank you, ladies, for doing that. I really do appreciate. I'm a big hugger, by the way, so I love to give hugs. And so thank you guys, thank you ladies for just stopping by and saying what's up. and also for supporting the booth. We sold some books, which was awesome, and that just continues to get the awareness out. So for those that it's your first time, my name is Eva Macias. We have been doing Wealthy Wednesdays for a few years now, and the goal behind it is to always take a look at different perspectives around money. Again, money is just the result. It's just the aftermath. So we have different topics. It happened to be that August, I decided to choose it being more on kids, which I don't really do a whole lot of kid series just because obviously I'm not a parent. And so I can't identify or relate, but I can definitely maybe try to and continue to look at it from a different perspective, just based on the stories that I hear from my clients and from women that I know, friends of mine that are actually moms. So some of these topics, sorry, I keep messing up Instagram. Some of these topics actually you guys have created. So thank you for creating the content. And I just happen to do the research. So thank you very much for that. For those that don't know where my office is located, I am the owner of Eva Macias and Associates Financial and Insurance Services. I know it could be a little bit longer. Here in the city of Whittier. And I do financial planning and insurance. And so when I tell people, oh, it's insurance, no, I don't do homeowners insurance. That's what we have Mikey here for. I don't do homeowners insurance. What I do is ultimately retirement planning, financial planning, looking at different amazing ways to help you retire early. And so that's really what I do. That's my expertise. I help you create budgets, help you create, a way of getting out of debt, because I do see pretty much a lot of people in debt. Majority of the people that walk into my office have some sort of debt, even though they are financially, some of them are very financially independent and have, large amounts of money. Some of them still do have debt. So, I help you with that, and also make sure that if you want to transfer your estate to your family, we do that correctly, and all of these amazing things. So I can go on and on and on and on, and I have so many stories, so many case scenarios. I wish I could really talk about all of them, but I have a lot of scenarios that I can share with you just in what we've done. I'll give you something really quickly. She conquers the world. Hello. I remember meeting a woman who worked 2 jobs, and just by her coming to meet me, actually, that's when I used to drive to people's homes. I drove to her house, and we were able to create a system where instead of just getting, like 2 sources of income, she was now able to get 4 sources of income. And these were like sources of income that were not going to run out of money. So that was really awesome. Just again, everybody's scenario is different, and not whatever I recommend to one person is not going to be what I recommend to the other person. So just understand that, okay? And also, I am the author of A Latina's Guide to Money. And why did I write this book? I wrote this book with the intention that I could only see so many clients one-on-one. So if I never got a chance to meet you, I could still create an impact in your life. And so I wrote the book with the image of, or with the vision of, I want more women like me to understand that they're not alone, that it's scary out there, whether it's a man's world, a white man's world, all that stuff, that yes, it's true, it is. I mean, I walk into conferences and usually I'm the youngest one. First of all, I'm the youngest. Second, I'm a Latina, which I don't usually throw those cards. I'm a woman. Like all that, as much as I know it impacts me, I just have to just brush it off, like move on, and start understanding the mindset more than anything, and stop putting myself in the box of just being a woman, being Latina, being the youngest. Like I remove that when I go to these financial conferences, because everybody out there is way older than I am. They're in their 50s or in their 60s. And I'm just like, yo, I'm 38, And when I do meet those young girls or young men that are in the business, it's actually really nice. It's nice to see it. And we see different things and we think differently. So again, when I wrote the book, I wrote it with the intention that more women like me, that looked like me, would start taking an interest in taking control of their finances. And if you guys know my story, you guys know that I always haven't been responsible about it. So I don't hide that. I actually, I turned my mess into my message. And as hard as it was for me as a human being to expose myself in that way, it was also very liberating to do so, because I then realized that that was really where I held my power. My power was in getting out of it and taking as many people with me along the way. So I share that with you for those that it is your first time, just because I want you guys to get to know a little bit more about who really is behind your Instagram and your Facebook if you haven't already met me. I know, I post a lot, I post daily. I usually try to include you guys as much as I can in my life, but I'm just your average girl that just has really big visions, really big dreams, and not just for myself, meaning like for me, but I want as many people as I can possibly help. Like I just really want to be able to help them. So with that said, I also wanted to give you a different perspective when it comes to teaching your kids about money. Why? Especially, I don't know for how many of you guys have kids actually? That's what I want to know. So if you have children, put their ages. And the reason why I asked that is because I had to really ask myself as I was doing this series of, Wealthy Wednesdays, I was like, let me take myself back to when I was a kid, and let me take myself back to when I had a conversation with my parents about money, or when I was exposed to it, no more than anything. Growing in Estrada says, yes, 19, 16, and 12. Micaela says, hello. And Michelle Gomez, hello, beautiful. Yes, you have a 13 and a 9-year-old. When I was growing up, and not that my parents are bad, my parents are awesome people. Like they're amazing people. But I don't ever remember my dad sitting me down and saying, look, honey, this is how money works. Like, I don't ever remember that, right? I don't ever remember my mom. Yes, so some of you guys do. Queen Bee 604, a 20-year-old, the balloon maven. Oh my God, 12-year-old, I would have never imagined. Yes, an 18 and a 16-year-old. Yeah, so I never really, like, if I look back, I'm like, who was the first person that introduced me to money? I knew early on we didn't have a lot of it, okay? So why is because we had hand-me-downs. We had furniture that never matched. Nowadays that's a trend, but shit, when you're poor, that's not a trend. We had hand-me-downs, even from clothing, especially for my brothers and sisters, if one wore it, everybody wore it type of thing. I was very fortunate, since I'm the youngest of 8, that I got a little bit more spoiled in that sense, because now I had brothers and sisters to actually give to me, or their boyfriends or girlfriends more boyfriends. I would be the chaperone to my brother-in-law, so they would take me everywhere. So I was exposed to a lot more. And I think that really helped out, because I was able to be exposed to doing things. I remember I couldn't go to the mall with my parents and then buy me stuff at the mall, because that shit was too expensive. Like, there's no way. You got that at the swap meet, at any flea market you can think of. And estaba regateando. For those that are Latinos, you guys know what regatear is, right? And so I looked back and I was like, wow, let me go back to when I was a kid. I really didn't get exposed to conversations about money. Like, we didn't sit down as a family on the dinner table and say, hey, so how was your day today? I do remember my mom asking me things like that, but it was like in between, if she had to go to work or if she was picking me up from school. And it was never just me. It was me or a friend or me and a cousin or something, right? But the only time I really remember having conversations that were very, like meaningful, were usually Sundays after Mass, and we would go to Kmart. And my mom and I would go to Kmart after Mass. That was like our thing. And we would go shopping technically, but not really shopping. We would just like go look around. And if she had money, then she would buy stuff for the house. And everything was for the house. And then, if she wanted an outfit, she'd maybe get something. And if I always wanted everything. And there'd be times where she'd be like, not right now. And that was pretty much it that I can remember when it came to money. I remember being about 8 years old, and in Mexico, the peso, the dollar, it was 1,000 pesos. And since I had never seen so many zeros, I thought that was a lot of money. And at that time, I think that wasn't even worth $1. And so to me, that was a lot of money. And when one of my sisters actually got married, I was really sad that I couldn't be with her. And my brother-in-law actually, bribed me with, I think it was 10 of those 1,000 pesos, which I thought that was a lot of money. And I remember telling him, I don't want your money, I want my sister. And I was 8 years old. So that's like the most I can remember about money. Then as I got a little bit older, and you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with the tip for today? But I just want you to understand, like, the mistakes that I have made have ultimately also been a result of the conversations my parents didn't have with me, or my siblings didn't have with me. You know, we didn't have podcast, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Facebook to be able to look stuff up. Google wasn't a thing back then. I'm 38 years old. How many are with me that can identify with these things? Like, right? So as I was saying, as I got older, I then realized, come here, Marley, that I got a job. And when I got a job, I got a job, but I got a job because I needed contacts. Like, I wanted to buy contacts. We could only afford whatever glasses, you know, our insurance would give us. But I wanted contacts because I didn't want to look like a nerd. And so because of that, I remember working at Olin Mills, being the annoying telemarketer. Hey, you want to buy pictures? Hey, you want to buy pictures? Hey, you want to buy pictures? And I hated my job. I totally hated it. And then sometimes on the weekends, I would go to the swap meet and I would help out my dad, or I would go help and get a little bit of money, or I would help my mom clean my cousin's house so that I can get, you know, 20 bucks or whatever it was. I don't even remember. So we would go and clean her house and I would help my mom. And I think because of that way of being, I remember cleaning my cousin's house and saying, one day I'm going to have a house like this. Like, I love cleaning her house because it was always so pretty and it gave me something to look forward to. And so I say that because as I got older, you know, 18-year-olds, that's why today's topic is money fundamentals for young adults. I had no idea as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, the value of a budget. It's either you had money or you didn't have it. The value of a budget. I had no idea the value of credit whatsoever. I remember early on at Cal State Fullerton, so if you have any Titans up here, woo, woo, what's up? I remember going to Cal State Fullerton, and it's, you know, whatever week it was, and there's tons of credit card companies, like literally like table, giving you free shit, like a free mug, right? So you can get a credit card. You're a poor college student, you're like, free stuff? Absolutely. Signature only? Everything's a no anyways. Like, I seriously remember getting my first credit card from Discover and just charge away. I was like 19 years old. I think I was like 19. Sorry, I just did something. Oops. What did I do here? I was like 19 years old. And so now that I look back, I'm like, I just got that because I had no idea. Like, credit cards, I knew that it was money that you borrowed, but sometimes, like, you would have to pay it back. Like, I had no idea about terms and conditions. I had no idea that it would build up such crazy ass interest. So as I continued to go through college, I got myself into credit card debt, and I remember being in debt $3,500, and I was dying. I was like, oh my God, how am I got myself into, I remember my first credit card, guys, in college. You know what this girl did? This girl ends up in Paris, right? I ended up in Paris because since I had not traveled to Paris and I had money, and 14 of my other friends were going to go to Paris. So guess what, Miss Independent, I have a credit card. Let's charge that shit up on Discover. So doing that, I wasn't proud of myself. And I remember I racked up my credit cards to $3,500 and I wanted to file bankruptcy. Like, I knew that was a thing. And I was like, well, my parents will never know. And I will just go ahead and file bankruptcy and then they'll never know. But I did have this conception of bankruptcy to be something really bad. So morally, I was like, no, like, I can't do that. I got myself into this. I got to get myself out of it. So I did. But I had no idea really, like, what the concept, how it worked. I remember sending minimum payments, paying forever. And that's how I got introduced to credit. That's how I got introduced to credit cards. I had no idea that they monitor your credit score, what it was going to look like, the impacts it would have in buying a home. Like, I knew nothing of that. And so I say that because I was gullible, blind, whatever, you stupid, you can use all of the above. I didn't know any of that because, one, it's not like the school system taught me, right? And I'm not blaming Cal State Fullerton or my high school or any of that. It's just that wasn't something that they were teaching. I don't blame my parents either because they didn't know. My parents didn't have an education. I have to backtrack a little bit. They didn't have an education from school. They're educated. They have great manners, all that good stuff. But what I'm saying is that they didn't go to school, right? My parents taught themselves how to read and write. So if I look at that, I'm like, they didn't know. So how could they teach me something they had no idea? So the concept behind today is if you have, teenagers or young adults that are going into 18 and 19-year-olds, don't make the assumption that they know about this just because they've heard it or seen it in whatever form or way, okay? Or just because you think they're good with money. Ultimately, the tip today is sit your 16-year-old, your 15-year-old, whatever age they are, sit them down, take a 15, 20-minute conversation, say, look, I may not do a lot of things maybe. Like, if you do that, they're probably going to think they're in trouble. But sit them down and say, I want to have an open, honest conversation. Come here, Marley. I want to have an open, honest conversation about something that maybe I didn't know. Because I see a lot of people that walk into my office that have tons of debt. And I can tell you that most of that debt doesn't come because you just want to be stressed out all the time. Come here. Come here. Come here. Good boy. I'm sure it's not because you want to be stressed out all the way. Come here. Come up here. And so because of that, it is really, really important, come here, Marley, that you sit your kids down and ask them, not ask them, but, have a dialogue, conversation about what is it that you know about credit cards? Do you know how they operate? And don't scold them. Like, ask them, because genuinely in the asking is all the answers you need to be able to share what they maybe need to know. Maybe they know more than you and you're learning from them, right? Or maybe they don't know enough and now you know what to explain to them. Like, if someone would have sat with me and said, hey, my parents, my sisters, whoever, look, when you get older, you're going to get offered a plastic card that has pretend money. It's not even yours. And if you borrow it, you're going to get charged this ridiculous interest. Let me give you an example. I will let you borrow $1, but you're going to have to return $1.50 back. You'd be like, oh, it sounds so easy, but it's so easy to do and so easy not to do because, one, we forget, we get so busy that we don't start really taking the time to invest in our kids. And how are we investing? We're investing time plus education to give them a better outcome. That's ultimately what it comes down to, right? So sitting them down and explaining to them, look, when you get a credit card, it's going to do this. Credit cards go into the 3 credit bureaus. I had no idea there were 3. The 3 credit bureaus. And you can check your credit. The reason why you want to do this, and you give them the benefit of why. And you also let them know, if you ever feel like you cannot pay any of this, you got to come up to me. I promise I won't scold you. And I'm going to tell you why I say this. Because I personally know someone that became delinquent on their credit card. Their minimum payment was $25, guys. $25. Most of you spend $25, one at dinner or in a few, like 4 Starbucks. So let them know, if you could never make that one payment, I want to know immediately. I want to build the trust and the safe place for you to be able to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I can't pay this month. And then reassess like the level of responsibilities. Why? Because now you're monitoring your kids and how their financial future can ultimately look, right? And you let them know the reason why is because in the future, when you want to buy a car or when you want to buy a house, you're going to need this. This is valuable information. Sit them down. Do the math with them. Say, look, if you bought a car for $20,000 at an interest rate of 5%, versus if you bought a car with an interest rate of 8%, this is how much you would pay for the car. It sounds super basic and elementary, but at the same time, if I ask you right now, how many of you have actually done with your kids? Like, how many have you? And don't be afraid to say no, right? This is probably why you're watching this. And don't be ashamed to be like, no, because guess what? How I came up with all these topics have been based on you guys sharing with me, like, hey, I find this really valuable. Maybe you can share this so that maybe I can see how other parents do it, or how other people communicate. Come here, Papa. How many other people communicate with, come here. Okay, come here. Come. He wants to play, guys. All day we've been in bed, and right now that I'm on Wealthy Wednesdays, like he wants to play. Come here. Come here. Come. Sit right here. Come. You want to come up here? Okay, good boy. Yay, thank you, the Balloon Maven. So yes, they're just different ways. Don't scold them. Like, how many of you liked being scolded by your parents because you weren't doing something? It doesn't feel nice. So let them know that this is not a scolding. Let them know that this is just because you love them. And just say, look, I didn't know these things, and I'm teaching you what I didn't know and I had to learn along the way. You want me to buy you things? I will, but you have to earn them. You see? Also, I'm going to, and ask them, would you rather me just buy you stuff and never teach you any life lessons? Or would you rather me reward you when you have been great? And so talk to your kids, because I think sometimes we mute our children, especially as they get older, because we see them much more mature. They might have an attitude. That does not mean that they know stuff, guys. If I go back, I'm 38 years old. If I go back to 20 years, oh my God, I was so immature. And you're supposed to at that age. Right? You can't expect just because you're 18 by law that you know all the stuff because you graduated from high school and now you're going to college. Our education system lacks a lot of things. So guess where it needs to be created? At home, right? So your kids are an investment, guys, just like your relationships are an investment. You want to invest your relationship, your time with people that bring joy to you, with people that lift you up. Now with people that are miserable, or a spouse that you can't even stand, like, everything is an investment. So invest wisely with the time that you have, right? I currently have a client, she's got 2 kids, 2 boys, and one of her sons literally just signed a really big deal with, what's this guy, Kanye West and the Kardashians. The other son, totally opposite. Totally opposite. He's like, I don't care about life. Whatever happens, happens. Like, who cares? How insane is that? Same parents, same parenting, different outcome. One of them's older, the other one's younger. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Marley, come here. Sorry, I'm gonna have to let him out, because if not, he's gonna annoy us. So again, these are different things you can do. Show them, maybe even help them create, as they turn 18, if they do happen to have a credit card or a debit card, help them create a credit karma so they can check their credit once a year so that they know, because there's also a lot of identity theft with children, especially under the age of 18, because your Social Security, you won't never know because you're never thinking like that. But that's what I'm saying. So it's important that you also teach them about how to monitor their credit so that they can stay on top of it. You taking that 20-minute conversation with your child can save them a lot of money. They can, it's a larger return. And so teaching them about credit, teaching them the pros and cons about it, and teaching them about a budget. Now, parents, I see a lot of clients in my office, and some of you don't even have a budget. So it is really important that before you sit down with your children, you also create a budget for yourself, because then it's going to be so much easier for both of you to be on the same page. Remember, kids learn from seeing things, right? And so if you want your kids to learn not to spend, but you're always spending, that's going to be counterintuitive. It's not going to work. And so if you expect, and I asked this question to my bootcamp attendees recently, I said, how many of you have kids? If your kids can see your financial future, or not your financial future, but your current money, your bank account, And if they were to grade you, just like you expect good grades from your kids, but if they were to grade you financially, how well do you think you would do? And it's not a trick question. It's a question of the only way you can receive something is by you being that. So be it yourself so they can see it and learn it from you, not from other sources. You know, even though there was a lot of amazing things I learned from my parents, like the do's and the don'ts, I learned to think bigger because of all of the mentors, all of the books, all the inspirations. Like I always wanted to be like people that were changing the world. Not that I'm saying my parents were not, but they won just by coming to this country, sacrificing, leaving what they were comfortable with. That was already a win for them. You see? So we were thinking differently. And so having a job was a win for them, considering they didn't have any, English. They didn't speak English. Having a job, coming to a country, being able to raise 8 kids, and all of us turned out to be great. We're good kids. So again, their win is different than my win. So it's really important that you do teach them about credit, you teach them about a budget, and you ask them, what are some of your big financial goals? I bought my first house in my early 20s. If I look back, I ask myself, what in the world was I thinking buying a house when I was in my early 20s? Do you know why? Because of the fact that I was able to see other people, other mentors that I never knew their names, I never knew what they were about, but I wanted to be like them. And I happened to land in the escrow world, okay? And I learned so much that I said, this is my next big move. And so because of me going into a career, a job that would allow me to be exposed to a lot more, I was able to take that leap of faith and buy a house in my early 20s. Whereas of my parents, that didn't happen for them. So again, be the example for them. Just don't just scold your kids or they should know this or any of that. Don't leave that responsibility to others. Don't leave it that, oh, now they do whatever they want, or they need structure, right? Because some of you, how many of you are adults and you still need structure yourself? So look at your children when it comes to money in a much more compassionate way, a way of, this is another way that I provide love for them. And even though they may not understand, one day they will thank you. The things that I hear from a lot of the 20-year-olds that have come to my office, they have these huge dreams. They're like, I want to buy a house. Let's just say they're 23 years old. I want to buy a house. I'm like, great, by when? Maybe when I'm like 35. I'm like, 35? You're going to buy a house in 5 years, honey. 5 years or less. What? How is that possible? I have a 25-year-old. I'm not kidding you, and I'm so proud of her. She camp was not in a financial alignment. One of her main goals, she's 25, one of her main goals was to buy a house. I said, if you get serious about this, we'll set up a budget, we'll pay off some debt, connect you with some lenders, connect you to a realtor, and I really think you'll have your house within about a year. Literally 6 months later, guys, she got her house. It's almost going to be about I think she's now in her 8th month or so, and she's already a homeowner. She's 25 years old. She's 25. She just listened, did the work, got the result. It's not that complex. So with your kids, don't make it complex either. Take the time to say, look, there's a few basic money fundamentals I want to teach you that maybe I didn't know that I learned, and let them know you've made mistakes if you have, or let them know if there's something really proud that you've done, like maybe buy a house or bought your own car with your own money, like let them know, look, it was really empowering for me, or I felt really confident in this and it brought a lot of joy. Your kids are going to want to see you happy. They're going to want some of that. So because they are, it's so important that you now teach them that responsibility. Maybe you teach them the responsibility by giving them not a credit card, but you give them a debit card. There are some debit cards that now, there are some debit cards that you can connect, or not a debit card, what do you call this? Yeah, a prepaid card that's connected to your credit score. I remember when I had to rebuild my credit, a $300 secured credit card got me literally to rebuild my credit. So have boundaries for them, but set them up to win already. because that'll also make your life easier, and that means they're not going to ask you for money as you get older. You could retire with a little more money because you don't have to give your kids all this cash. If you take the time, if you take the investment right now in teaching them, invest the time they need to be able to create, self-sufficient human beings that, again, we can't just assume that they know, or that the internet's going to teach them, or they're going to listen to a podcast. Always take on the responsibility that this is my responsibility. The reason why I wrote a book is because it's my responsibility not only to bitch about the system. Like, I can bitch about the system and how it's not working, or what my parents didn't do, but that's not what I'm about. What I'm about, it's my responsibility to shed my light. Come here. To shed my light, to be able to teach others what I didn't know, or what I learned along the way. Come here. Come here. And come here. Yeah. So he's saying, hurry up. Come here. He really is. Come here. He wants to play. So teach him that, and always come from a place of love. And at the end, give them a hug. Let them know that you're there for them, so that this way that you continuously build the trust for them. And have your comadre, have their godmother, whoever it is, that they maybe share a little bit more, build a relationship with them, because that's really important at the end of the day. So I hope today was informative. I hope it definitely got you to think a little bit differently of how to be able to share with your kids. There's no right or wrong. Again, I don't have my own kids to test any of this formula, but I can tell you this much, that by me doing these and you guys helping me create these topics, it also allows me to be able to share with my future kids, like, hey, sit down. This is what we need to talk about. Make them responsible. Let them know that they're part of a team. And the team is that you've got to make sure you take care of yourself. When you take care of yourself, when your kids learn to take care of themselves, the whole family wins. Because think about that. If you were just responsible for you and nobody else, everybody would be taken care of. So start letting them know that it is really important for them to learn how to take care of themselves in so many different levels. Not only for themselves, but also for yourself and for you, so that this way they're not taken away from your retirement dollars, because now you need to save your kid because they don't have any money for anything. I currently have she's not a client, but she's in her 60s. She paid her 25-year-old kid's child support, okay? And it was so much that now, unfortunately, she took a big ding, and now she only has about $20,000, $25,000 in her retirement. She's going to take that money to help him buy a house. I'm like, lady, you're broke. Why would you do that? Again, you do things because of love, and I get it, but it's also equal to understand that love can mean so much more than just depleting yourself to give to them. So I hope some of this stuff landed for you. I hope this was informative. I hope that I get to connect with you. I hope I get to see you guys on a one-on-one basis. You guys are more than welcome to make an appointment on my website. If you're on Facebook, on my website, evamacias.com. If you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio. And for those that are asking me about the next financial boot camp, the next one and last one for 2019 is going to be October, and I believe it's October 8th. It will be the last one for the year, and we'll have some new stuff coming up on 2020. And let me tell you something, get on it, because if not, you'll probably be like, man, I could have saved some money. So again, October will be our last financial boot camp, and I hope that you guys learned something. If you did, please tag me on it. I really love listening. I love really sharing. I'm just going to share this from the Balloon Maven. It says, thank you for sharing. I found this topic so informative. I know I'm going to be sharing it with my boy and my son and my nephew. Awesome. Well, again, have a fantastic night. If there's any topics that you guys are interested for me to talk about, do some homework, find out some of the things, let me know. And also really quickly, if you Google young information that kids should know, it really comes down to like being responsible with budgets and credit, because that will go a long way. It does not matter how much money you make, but how much money you keep. So it doesn't matter that they work at McDonald's, okay, at all. My husband used to work at Burger King. I used to be a telemarketer, and that taught us the level of responsibility early on. So teach them how to, be responsible for themselves. And I appreciate you guys all listening. Maricela, that's awesome. And the Balloon Maven, yes, let's do it. I can't wait to continue having Wealthy Wednesdays. And thank you guys, because if it wasn't for Wealthy Wednesdays, I would have not put on makeup today. I was in my pajamas all day. And thank you guys, because I always look forward to seeing you guys. See you until next Wealthy Wednesday. Bye, guys.